Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Bite-Size Talk. With us today is the probably newest member of the NF Core infrastructure team, Julian Flesch. He's working as a PhD student at Cubic at the University of Tübingen. And today he's going to talk about the newest subcommand from tools, which is about test datasets. And with that, I will give the stage to you, Julian.
Thank you very much for that intro. Yes, I'm very pleased to be here and to be part of this community, this wonderful community. Finally, actively, I've been seeing what the results and what's happening about NF Core passively for a while, but I'm finally also contributing as part of my PhD. Yeah, I'll be talking today, as you mentioned, about the test dataset subcommand. That's part of the new tools release. And I want to make one disclaimer at first, because the recent release had a small issue exactly with the code I'm presenting, which is fixed on dev. And I think Matthias talked about a small release fixing something else, which fix will also be part of. So maybe today already there should be, it should work. But for the demos and the slides, and for you to try out, I use the current dev version, and maybe you could check that on GitHub as well. All right, so why is there the requirement for this tool at all? And what is the status quo? So currently we have this huge test datasets repo that is residing on an NF Core GitHub organization. And in general, test data is key when we're developing. We're developing reproducible pipelines. We want to run our tests whenever we change something. And obviously we need test data for that. And it's part of the NF Core philosophy to try to test what we produce. And inside the repository on GitHub, we currently have a lot of branches, and exactly it's one branch per pipeline, and then also a branch for all the module test files, and then also meta branches for other stuff. So it's quite a lot to wrap your head around. It's quite difficult to find a test file. And yeah, since there's hundreds of them, and it's exactly. And a key part of the test dataset repo is, of course, that we want to reduce reuse what's already there and not add unnecessarily to it and make it even bigger. So you can imagine there's a couple of problems with that. This test repo for me, of course, for example, and for other new members, I'm sure as well, is quite hard to understand. And we want to test our new modules and new pipelines that we build. So we kind of have to wrap our head around it at one point. And even for more seasoned NF Core pipeline developers or module developers, it's at least uncomfortable to navigate and to search. And I know of instances, and that's James Yates, who originally proposed this feature. He told me of how tedious it is to find a piece of data, even if you know where it is and you know it exists, because you have to go into your browser and click around and still won't find it, and then you mistype maybe by a bit. So this is the motivation for our new subcommand, of course. Enter test datasets. And of course, you don't actually have to do anything if you just upgrade to the new NF Core version. It will just be shipped with the NF Core tools pip package or conda package if you have a version bigger than 3.3.0. And exactly. And what exactly does it do? So there's three core things that this new subcommand can do for us. First of all, of course, it's meant for searching through this really big test dataset repository, and it allows us to post queries, and it allows us to use some clever autocompletes to make those easier. It also allows us to just list anything that we can find on a specific branch, and that could also be helpful if you don't quite know what we're looking for. But and then finally, there's also the option to list branches on this test datasets repository. And you might think, why is this even required? But this also does some neat filtering for us, because as I mentioned, there's some branches that don't even are associated to a pipeline or a module. And we do this listing based on a curated, manually curated system, set of pipelines. And so that's already a bit cleaner to go through. And how does it do it? Like under the hood, this would use the GitHub API and make some calls against it and list the file trees for the branches you select. And then, as I said, use a pre-curated list to filter the files that might be important to you. Also ignore some files that are typically found in a GitHub repository that don't contain data. For us, at least, it's useful for us. And then, as I mentioned, maybe one of the most important things is it auto-completes your queries. It helps you be really quick with or really find what you're actually looking for and be less precise. And, yeah. All right. With that, I want to jump in a quick demo because we're talking about a tool. And for that, let's imagine I was just writing maybe some module code, and let's imagine it could be something for metagenomics. I'm working on FASTA files. I want to maybe do some read bidding or something like that. It doesn't really matter, but the key thing is I want to maybe publish it in NF Core, or maybe just make sure it's tested, and then now arriving at the testing stage. So let us quickly jump into my console, and over here I have NF Core installed. And as you can see, as I mentioned, I'm currently on a dev version here, but this should soon no longer be required. All right, and over here then we have our new command, and you can again see the three main features that are offered here. And since I said I would be working with FASTA files, those are the inputs for my modules, I would jump right in and just look for FASTA. Okay, let's maybe write a quick query here. So I'm typing data sets, and then I'll use the search sub command, so to say, and let's just hit enter and see what happens. All right. Because we're querying against GitHub, and because we always have to select a branch. And I mentioned that these branch names are corresponding to pipelines. So, and since we are dealing with metagenomics data, maybe starting with mag is a good guess. And this, you might ask yourself, why can we not skip this? This is just due to the nature of how we perform these queries, and it would overload the API if we're doing too many requests, because we have to do for every file tree, we have to fetch those individually for every branch, and it would be without being logged in, it would quickly you would reach a quota, and you would no longer be able to make requests. So let's just go with mag for now. We could assume that there's metagenomic files maybe there. And as I am looking for something, a FASTA file, maybe with reads, I can just start typing FASTA, and you will already see again that this small autocomplete form pops up, and I can tap to go through this. Just a quick side note: if I don't put anything in here, and as the text on left states, I can also, like, without knowing anything about the repo or the files, I can also just go through all the files that are there. All right, but since we're looking for a FASTA file, let's just maybe look at this one. There seems to be a small mini gut data set that could be useful for us. And if I hit enter, then it will give me three pieces of information. First of all, the file name. This would be the file name corresponding to, this is the relative path, as locally in the cloned test data set GitHub repository, or if I'm in my browser on github.com and in the test dataset repo there, and I would go to the Mac branch, and then I would find this folder. So yeah, this is the relative path according for this branch. And then something very interesting, we also have these two pieces of information, because this tool, since it recognizes that we're looking for a pipeline, maybe it tries to assume that it tries to build for us an import path that we can copy and paste right into Nextflow. And it assumed that we were looking for maybe we were looking for pipeline data, and since we were looking at the Mac branch. And something else it does, it also creates for us this nice download link that we can use to actually fetch the file from GitHub without cloning or anything else. If that could be useful for us. Okay, so we just use this in a very basic way. And you already see, maybe it's one thing we noticed is that it could be hard to like extract this because of the table we used, so it looks nice. And so something we did, you can also always just generate the Nextflow import or the download link by the way. And to find out how we can do this, we can look at the help for this search command, and we will see that there are these two arguments that we can give to the command. And for example, if I use this general download path, and I'll use the short form -u. So let's do that again, and I'll put -u here. And also, I will now add the query we entered right here, so we can maybe save some time. And additionally, one more thing I can do is, and I have to do this before the query, but I will also add the branch we were just looking at, because we know we want to query Mac. And let's see what happens. All right. So you can see it already pre-populated the branch and put it in Mac for us. And now it also pre-populates the form, but it's not quite selected because there are several options for us. And we can tap to see those. We can then again find our file here and press enter. And now we can see the output format changed a bit, and it's like way easier to copy and paste our file here. And the same, of course, works with the to generate a Nextflow import path once we've downloaded it, for example. And we'll again select one of the files, and we can see it generated a piece of Nextflow code for us. All right. Since we had to select, and I mean, we can go through the branches by the autocomplete form, but this is basically what the second subcommand is for. This branches, and as I said, this just shows you all the branches that could have useful information for us about that could be useful for our pipeline or module development. And this is a reduced list, because actually on the GitHub repository there is over 170 branches, and this is a bit less already. This is also only those that could be useful here. All right, for anything else you want to do, and I didn't quite go into the list files, maybe we can also try that as well. I'll try the list files subcommand on the branch Mac as well. And there we can see, oops. I'm sorry, I have to. And what always helps if you can't spell the subcommands is to just type the help command again, and then we can learn that it's actually not list files, but it's just list. And then we can go again, and we see that it prints the entire file tree in case you want to do some custom grappling or something. And also here, like before, we can for example, generate Nextflow paths right away, or generate download URLs. And that could be useful if we combine it with any other command line tools in a pipe or something. All right. Play with yourself is probably best. And yeah, it gives you the option, obviously, to stay very close to your IDE and to your development without going to the browser and doing a lot of clicks there. This is, yeah. Let's go back to the presentation then. Okay, I already shown this a bit, but obviously autocomplete is one of the most important features here that helps us having a rough idea of what we want to see, and then tabbing through the results. And then we've already seen these two pieces, these two really nice flags, generate NF path and generate DL URL, that allow us to print a more handy output format for us that we might want, and to also make it more easy to copy. All right, that already wraps it up, and I want to make some final remarks about the test dataset repo in general, because there have been, I mean, this tool obviously is an attempt to make it more usable, and there have been ideas to change the structure a bit, or maybe move the data to another storage solution. And obviously, those things, there's lots of opinions, and those things take time, even though lots of people have put lots of thought processes and effort into that. And sometimes there are discussions about this happening, for example, on the Slack in the work group data task force. If you have ideas about this, or check out the GitHub repo right away. With that, I want to thank you for your interest and in this very small but for me important, because my first one, bite-sized talk. And let's open this to a discussion or questions if you want.
Yeah, thank you very much for this very interesting new tool. And hopefully it will help people to find very quickly the test data set they need. So do we have any questions in the audience? So far not. I might have a question like, if you don't really know if a test data set will work for you, I guess this... Oh, Matthias has a question, I think. You can unmute yourself, Matthias.
Yes, just because it was your first contribution to tools, how was it to contribute to tools? How difficult is it to get into?
It was amazing. Thanks for the question. I obviously had a lot of help from all of you, from you, Matthias, and from Julia and others in the infrastructure team and working on tools. And it was that made it really easy. Using Slack and being able to post open questions, they are stupid questions, and being able to ping you guys on GitHub, that really helped in the process, obviously. And I'm really thankful for you guys being there along for the ride. And in general, I would say this was a very a very good first thing to contribute, because it's such a closed off tool, because it's like it's a new thing, but it does its own thing, and yeah, there's not so much. There wasn't terribly much webbing into the existing code, and of course that can be a bit confusing sometimes, of course. But yeah, I hope that answers.
Okay. Okay, maybe I can ask my question now. I reformulated it in my head. So basically, if you know what kind of test data set you want, the only way at the moment how to get there is by knowing which other pipeline would use a similar test data set. Or is there another way how you can search for it?
I mean, you would probably, if you're developing a module, or you would sometimes already have a pipeline in mind, or a domain in mind that it would fit into, or that you want to build this for, or that you want to extend with that module, or and if you were building a new pipeline, you would maybe already have asked on Slack anyway if there's a similar pipeline. People would have maybe gave you feedback. So this is probably not the very first step you do as a complete beginner. You would probably have been in another place at first. And if you are maybe already a seasoned developer, or maybe already have written one or two pipelines, and then you maybe already know, and that's what I got from the community as well. You might already know that you're looking exactly for this file, and you might know that it's exactly on Mac, on the Mac branch, or it was used in RNA-seq, and you just can't remember the name. So yeah, that's probably what will most often happen. Yeah.
Okay. So asking is the best way if you have no idea where to look for. Perfect.
Yeah.
Do we have any more questions from the audience? So it looks like everything is very clear. So thank you very much also for your contribution. And I hope to see everyone else back at the next Bite Size Talk, and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.